Sorry to cut off the discussion, but we'll have opportunities, I'm sure, at some point to continue talking through some of this. So I have the pleasure with Kanya to talk about our working groups and to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, essentially. So folks will be coming up and representing each of our 4 domains, and this should also provoke some discussion. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A after each working group. So I'm going to just say something about the first 2, and then Kanyo will do the second 2. Not much to say other than I don't know who from the research team or research work group wants to come up. We have your slides, I'm sure, ready. But who is the speaker to talk a little bit about what your work group talked about yesterday? You are? Oh, great. You want to come up? You want to introduce yourself? And then we have the slides ready. And here's the...
Okay, good morning. Good morning. I'm Dr. Scholar Shaba from Mara University of Science and Technology in Uganda. And I'm representing our team on research. And we're a team of several people. The names I'm not going to read. But I'm number 2 there, so I'm presenting on behalf of my team. So our method was, together we're reflecting on goals and challenges, after which we had a discussion, each of us, picking out individual goals and challenges, and then we narrowed down 3 overall goals. And then at the end, it was consensus and agreement on what we aim at moving forward. So we had several things coming up. One, we were thinking about, psychiatry and mental health being a little subtle to people who are not in the field. I remember one of us saying, when you say I'm a psychiatrist, people think you're crazy. Yeah. If you're teaching undergraduates and you say, I'm a psychiatrist, like, are you no more? So can we improve on communication, science communication, as far as psychiatry is concerned? But more importantly, all of us are busy. When we live here, what happens? So we need administrative support to put together these ideas and move forward. And then we have many young people. So capacity building is very, very important. We thought about that as well. And how do we formalize this research agenda? And then can we obtain funding as we move forward? If we're aiming at capacity building, how do we do that? I think funding is the way to go. And then we were thinking, hey, big projects. Can we have students for PhD, for master's degrees? And that is one way of building capacity. And collaborations. Many of us who are somewhere or moving higher, we all know that collaborations are actually very important. So we thought about that as well. However, we also noted that we may think big, but there are challenges. So who provides the trainings we are thinking about as we think about building capacity? Who is going to lead this? Who is going to do all these trainings? And then we're also thinking, so when we live here, how often do we meet? And how long are these meetings going to be? Believe me all, we are all occupied. We do a lot of things in our respective institutions. So it may not be as rosy as it seems when you put it on paper. A lot of work has to be put in. And then, who are the mentors? Are the mentors available? We may have so many mentees, but where the mentors help us move forward. And then we thought about dividing responsibilities among the working group members, who leads what, who does what, at what time, when, where, all that. We're putting all that into consideration. So finally, we narrowed down our overall goal moving forward is we need a big grant. And many of us will know that from NIH, D43 grants have been hopeful. I'm one of the beneficiaries. When I was doing my PhD, it was a D43 grant. I went to Tumbara University of Science and Technology, and through that, I was able to move forward. So we are thinking about writing that across our institutions, get support from our respective institutions, and as you read that, we're thinking about how many PhDs per year can we get from each of these universities as we think about building capacity. And then, of course, capacity building. As we have this grant, it's all about capacity building. Who would we get in? What exactly are we aiming at? And we are all about, can we train early career investigators and they move towards being independent researchers? And then also think about the nitty-gritties of integral parts of research. Grant writing, manuscript writing, statistics, data analysis, and all those small things that make a big difference. And that was all from our research group. And I hope we can carry this forward. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. You said what I was going to say. Are there any questions for the research working group, or thoughts or comments about thinking about how we can expand? I know them.
Thank you, research group. Is there a specific question that you hope to address with your training grant that would be able to encompass people from different?
Thank you so much for that question. We didn't get to that level, but we think after here, it's a work in progress. So at the moment, we don't have what question we are addressing, but all we know is that we need to do something that can help early career investigators to get to a higher level. And I think we shall think about the question as we move forward. But thank you so much for bringing that up. Actually, that now opens up, okay, so what? So thank you so much.
Thank you. So with the D43, just if you can provide more details about that, and for instance, how many countries are you thinking about? What will be the focus, that kind of research focus? What are the themes, basically? Yeah, I point this out because I'm on a D43, kind of the mental health lead through. It's Harvard, BU, and Northwestern University, and it provides 1-year fellowships for in countries, and it's in Africa and in Asia and Latin America, so they're kind of really spread out all over. But it also is available for U.S. Young investigators as well. But can you just kind of flush out a little bit more your thought about the D43 and what are the areas of focus?
I don't want to put you just on the spot. So there's other probably people in the working group. I know you're representing your working group.
Dr. Kenna, please.
Okay, great.
So thank you, Prof, for the question. So we were actually thinking of a couple of South to South African universities, BPZN, Makerere, UCT, Moi, Eldoret, well, not all of them, plus 1 or 2 partners from the US, and specifically the call for the NCD through lifespan, the D43 call for, I think it's due for July 2023. And the focus would basically be on mentorship, trying to get young folks to apply for grants or to complete small projects, to get their works published. The ideas are still a bit undefined, But yeah, African universities partnering with the US institution.
Can I add to that, please? I was going to add to that, we went in, I facilitated the sessions. I think I should kind of be a little bit nothing to defend the fact that we're going to do a D43. So we went in and the mandate was for us to work on an R21 grant application. That was what we needed to do in that session. And we took a step back and we asked ourselves, where do we want to be in research in 2 years' time within the AGMHI? And that's what we worked on as a group. And what came out very clearly, a lot of things came out, but what came out very clearly is we wanted to be focusing on training capacity, research capacity. And it took a while for us to get there. And it was a journey to get from what are we going to look at in the R21 to where do we want to be in research in 2 years' time, within what is our vision. And so our vision is really about increasing research capacity. And so we didn't, our point of our session yesterday was to work out what our vision is and who the people are that are going to work on that. So just to get the buy-in. And then we figured that the regular meetings to work on the grant really is just going to be one part of it. There are other ways in which we can increase research capacity, but at least we have a focus for the next 2 years.
Thank you very much. There's a thought that is coming, and probably it's not the immediate outcome, but I feel like I should say it because there was a question that was brought up or stimulated by Dr. Laila Asmal's talk, which was amazing, was how do we stop citing big research or papers and forget very significant research and that we have published. And we are at fault of our own biases, and we do have a lot to do for ourselves. So one of the things that come up is when we supervise junior researchers or we supervise students, do we also look at what they cite? Do we ask, the first question we ask, we put it in our mind that if they are doing a small study in a specific district, the first thing would be what has been done in that region, then what has been done in the country, instead of what has been done globally first. And also, what is the role, or how can we uplift the great literature that we have so much of that is not published? So for the research team, for the research group that aims at building capacity, to also have a checklist of how are they going to push other agendas so as to make sure that overall, these are things that we don't forget. I don't know if that's clear. So for me, it's like pushing the agenda of citing our own research. And it doesn't come from just us reciting it, but also putting a checklist even for the students. Like, where is the gap within the country?
Thank you for saying what I wanted to say, I think, in the previous session. And I think a goal for this working group, in my view, might include advocating for more diversity in research funding. And that is the pathway, in my view, towards citing a diverse group of researchers by having them funded, so that then they get to publish, so that then they get funded. So I think when we speak to NIH, be explicit about an expectation that they will fund researchers from low middle income countries, especially when they're talking about problems that are prevalent in low middle income countries. I think that ought to be an explicit goal for a group such as this. Thank you.
All right, good morning. I kind of like, when I think about research, I kind of think about it almost, in a clinical sense, that there will not be psychiatrists enough. And yet we know task sharing very effectively, right, in like clinical duties. And so when I think about research on the continent, I also think about, is there an equivalent of task sharing when it comes to research? And I think, the idea that only people who are in the mental health field and or health field can do research in mental health is just not, going to help us in the long term, because, as you say, it's the immense supply issue. So I'm really wondering, to what extent we can expand it to existing, and beyond the health field, mental health field, but also beyond university settings. NGOs are doing fantastic work and they have all this funding, right? And yet, like, oftentimes they don't produce papers or scientific publications, and they might not know how to. They might feel that's not part of their agenda, and yet like they are doing all this data collection, and like all this data is lost. So I think like if there can be almost like a paradigm shift in terms of task sharing and research, as much as we appreciate task sharing in clinical duties, I think this will really help us eventually to also do more research and get our work out there.
Leila, I think one of the goals I am proposing for the group, the working group, which I'm part of, but was not part of the discussion yesterday, is to define who an African researcher is. I think Bonga raised it today, and I raised it yesterday. We need to come up a bit, show leadership in who is an African researcher. I think we should be able to have an unambiguous definition of who that is. The second thing is, what are we doing about funding from within our own continent, our continental bodies, AU, the governments, and that might require advocacy, so that advocate group might have to partner in that. What are we doing? Because we are looking to NIH, we are looking to the UK, Europe, but we are not looking in. So that's maybe a question, a comment on that.
It's really hard. I think one of the challenges is that there's so many pressing pulls within working groups that pull our attention, and we decided to go with a focus because it was a great breakaway session on specifically looking at grant proposals. So we went with that focus. I think there should be some mechanism to keep all these other thoughts afloat, so that we're able to hold both our overall focus, because I think it is important to have a focus so that we don't just sit and pontificate and blah blah things, to have our vision, but still to have all these things around scientific dissemination, plus authorship, plus all of these things available for us to bring up as other achievables along the way. And I think that's something that we need to work on, whether that's part of our research hub or whether that's part of our own thinking. I think our working group needs to look at that. Thank you.
Is it still okay? So did you turn it off? So thanks for all the comments and suggestions. And as Leila mentioned, there was a task for the working group for both research and training and education. And everyone can sort of see that. I think it was page, I'm going to get it wrong.